The Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, entered his youth having experienced the deepest losses: father, mother, and grandfather. He was now under the protection of his uncle, Abu Talib. His life would not be one of privilege, but one of rigorous discipline and hard work. This period, from age 8 to 25, was a hidden chapter of divine preparation. While Makkah's youth indulged in vice, drinking, and tribal games, Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, chose a path of isolation and honesty. His trials were not of battle, but of character. He had to prove to a corrupt society that integrity was possible. This is the story of how the orphan boy quietly grew into the one man Makkah would trust with its life, Al-Amin. Abu Talib was a man of honor, but he was poor. To help his large family, the young Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, took up the work of a shepherd. This was a common job, but for the future prophet, it was a spiritual training ground. Shepherding is solitary work. It teaches patience, humility, and responsibility. While tending the flocks in the vast, silent hills surrounding Makkah, he found the solitude his heart craved. He was shielded from the vices of the city and given time to reflect on the spiritual emptiness of the Quraysh. The scholars note a profound wisdom here. Almost every prophet of God served as a shepherd. This time in solitude allowed him to contemplate the order of creation, preparing him for the immense responsibility of leading a community. He was learning to be patient with the sheep before he had to be patient with men. When Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, was around 15 or 20, he witnessed firsthand the futility of the tribal system. The War of Fijar, the sacrilegious wars, erupted, a senseless blood feud fought over a trivial incident during the sacred months. Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, participated, but not as a fighter. Accounts say he only gathered arrows for his uncles. He saw the sheer, horrifying madness of human pride, unguided by divine law. He saw how men destroyed their own lives and their economies just to satisfy a point of honor. This experience deeply cemented his commitment to justice and his rejection of the tribal code of perpetual revenge. He realized that peace was impossible without a higher, universal moral authority. The chaos of the War of Fijar, combined with repeated incidents of injustice, finally moved some righteous Makkans to action. The trigger was a foreign trader who was cheated out of his goods by a powerful Quraysh noble and had nowhere to turn for justice. The trader stood by the Kaaba and publicly begged for help, but was mocked by the wealthy elite. This shame led to the formation of the Hilf al-Fudul, Pact of the Virtuous. Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, was present at this gathering and participated actively. They swore an oath to stand united with the oppressed against the oppressor, regardless of their own tribe, until justice was served. This was a radical, powerful act that transcended tribal loyalty. The Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, would later say that he valued this pact so highly that if he were called to it in Islam, he would still answer. This shows his innate, unshakable commitment to universal human rights, long before he received prophethood. He was already a champion of the weak. When he was around 12 years old, his protective uncle, Abu Talib, decided to take him on a major trade journey to Syria. This journey was a crucial step in his development, exposing him to the wider world and the monotheistic faiths beyond Makkah. The caravan stopped near a monastery in Busra, Syria. There lived a Christian monk named Bahira, a man of great learning, respected for his knowledge of ancient texts and prophecies. Bahira had never before taken special notice of the passing caravans, until this one. Bahira noticed an extraordinary thing. As the caravan arrived, a cloud seemed to move, sheltering the young boy from the harsh sun. He invited the entire caravan to a meal, an uncommon gesture. During the meal, Bahira intently studied the young boy. He saw the physical descriptions he had read about in the ancient scriptures. He confirmed the signs when he examined the boy's back and found the seal of prophethood, a small birthmark mentioned in the divine texts. Bahira then turned to Abu Talib, his voice grave, and said, "Take your nephew and go back with him to your country. And beware of the Jews, for by God, if they see him and know about him what I know, they will mean evil to him." He warned Abu Talib that this boy was destined for a monumental fate. The revelation was not his yet, but his identity was already known to those who understood the truth. Abu Talib immediately sent his nephew back to Makkah in secret. Muhammad's, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, defining trait throughout his youth was not wealth or power, but his impeccable character. He was known by one name above all others, Al-Amin, the Trustworthy. This title was not given easily. It was earned through decades of flawless conduct. When Makkah's merchants needed a dispute settled, they turned to him. When families needed a guarantee, his word was enough. His integrity was absolute in every aspect. In finance, he never cheated, never overcharged, and always honored debts. In speech, he never lied, exaggerated, or gossiped. In conduct, he avoided all the common vices of his peers. He never drank alcohol, gambled, or participated in the reckless celebrations of the Quraysh. He was an anomaly, a man of purity in a land of corruption. He was the moral anchor that the entire society, even those who hated his future message, utterly depended on. By the age of 25, Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, was the most trusted agent in Makkah. His reputation reached the ears of the city's most successful and respected businesswoman. Khadija bint Khuwaylid, may Allah be pleased with her, known for her intelligence and nobility. Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, entrusted him with a large trade caravan to Syria, offering him a greater share of the profits than she offered anyone else. His journey was a huge success. His honesty, efficiency, and the reports of his success, combined with miraculous atmospheric signs, convinced Khadija. She was not interested in wealth, she was interested in character. She was the first to recognize his prophetic potential. Through her agent, Maisara, and her close friend Nafisa, she discreetly sent a marriage proposal to the young Muhammad. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon him. This was the defining human relationship of the Prophet's early life. He accepted, and they were married. Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, was 40, and Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessing be upon him, was 25. Their marriage established the perfect foundation for the immense trials ahead. Khadija was his first wife, and they shared a deep, exclusive love. She was his source of comfort and emotional stability, freeing him to pursue his spiritual contemplation. More than a wife, Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, was his chief supporter, his counselor, and his source of absolute trust. She was the first person who believed in him completely, preparing him for the isolation he would face when he finally delivered Allah's message. From the poverty of the shepherd to the wealth managed for Khadija, from witnessing senseless war to upholding the pact of the virtuous, Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, endured 2 decades of meticulous, divine preparation. He lived an impeccable life that earned him a title no king could buy, Al-Amin, the Trustworthy. His character was the proof of his mission even before the revelation came. The light was now mature, anchored, and respected. He had established the perfect home and the perfect reputation. He now began to crave solitude, retreating to the quiet of Mount Hira. The stage was set for the final, greatest event. The next chapter would be the moment the human and the divine would meet. The Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, retreats to the mountain. Next, in part 12, we will witness the moment the earth stood still, the first revelation and the dawn of Islam. Don't miss the call to prophethood, the first revelation,